If you're someone who feels unstable in their movement, or you can just push your joints to really extreme ranges of motion, then there may be a good chance that you're dealing with some type of hypermobility. Now, this isn't inherently a bad thing, but if your joints are always going through extreme ranges without proper contraction of the muscles and connective tissue, then this can cause some wear and tear over time. Now, this can show up in a myriad of different ways, but more often than not, it shows up as kind of this laxity in joint function, both statically and dynamically. So this could look like a hip shift, maybe excessively one way. It could appear as maybe your knees being fixed in hyperextension. It could be your elbows, your wrists, your ankles. We all come from different genetic backgrounds. We're all exposed to different stimulus as we go through the aging process. So it can vary depending on which joints are impacted, or it could be a multitude of joints that are impacted. So throughout this video, we are going to be working through a series of exercises that will hopefully offer a sense of internal stability. If our joints are always going through these extreme ranges, then chances are we're probably missing some underlying strength and stability around the joint. And my intention is that we don't only look at the one joint itself, but also how this relates to the rest of your body and how we can integrate these different systems together. Let's get into it. So for our first exercise, we're gonna be working through a quad pad hold. Now, before we get into it, something that I wanna preface this entire video with is that everyone comes from all different walks of life and experiences. Everyone's body is a little bit different. Their association to their body is a little bit different. So what we're gonna be working throughout the course of this video are gonna be concepts that hopefully you can broadly apply into exercises maybe you're already doing, or exercises that you may have found have worked for you in the past. Or maybe these will just be brand new to you and these are gonna be something that is helpful. But I wanted to preface the video by saying that because it's super important to know that these exercises aren't the end all be all, but I hope that the overarching concepts that are covered in this video are helpful. So without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so the quad pad hold. So for this, all you're gonna need is the floor. And what we're gonna work on initially is actually creating what I call kind of like a diamond shape with your arms. So if you take your arms up, you take your hands together, what I want you to think is you're gonna turn your hands in by lifting your elbows. So my elbows come up, and now I have kind of this diamond shape. Be mindful that when you're here, you're not closing off your upper ribs. So I'm not doing this, I'm just trying to lift my arms. I'm trying to keep myself somewhat supported and lifted while I keep my arms here. And this is gonna be the position with our arms that we're gonna try to maintain on the floor. So we're in our diamond shape. I have a small bend in my elbows. Now what I want you to notice is that my shoulder blades don't just go here. So I'm not just kicking back into the shoulder blades. I'm trying to have a little bit of a reach away from the floor through the function of scapular protraction. And what we're trying to work on here is if you deal with any hypermobility around your shoulders, your elbows, maybe even a little bit through your wrists, then this exercise is intended to kind of bridge the tension between those different sections and hopefully offer more, we'll say, primary tension or stability in through the shoulders. So we're getting used to the not just extending through the elbows, but keeping this connection to our shoulder girdle. Now, maintaining that connection to the shoulder girdle, we're gonna start to take our center of mass on top of our hands. And you may feel, even just in doing that the shoulder blades maybe wanna kick back, or that you start to get a lot of activation in your upper body. And that would be a great thing. If you are feeling that this is maybe a little bit too easy or you're not getting enough stimulus, we can increase it by keeping the center of mass forward on top of your hands and now lifting the knees. And all we're doing now is just a little bit of a hold. Again, not sacrificing the shoulder blade positioning. We're just going to try to sustain that. You can maybe take a couple breaths there. Let the knees come down, or if you're already here, that's great. Continue to work that breath. After about 30 to 45 seconds, take a little break, and you can revisit that. And you may notice they start to get a little bit of a felt sense of tension, maybe around your lats, your serratus, maybe in around your pecs. And all those would be a positive indicator that you're connecting to this exercise well. So for the next technique, we're gonna work through what I call a shin angle lunge. The reason why it's called a shin angle lunge is because we try to keep a shin angle the whole time. Mark, what's a shin angle? A shin angle is that. So one of the most common things that I see as it relates to hypermobility is people going into a lot of hyperextension too quickly when they are walking, or even when they're in a standing position, they're just in this hyperextended state with their knees. Or it could be this hip shift, where now I'm just literally hanging off the joint and there's nothing supporting me. So this exercise is meant to work on both the knee, the hip, but we are going to be getting some ankle and foot involvement here as well. So let's get into it. How this is going to work is we are going to start with creating a shin angle, as you can see on my right leg. What we're going to start to do, keeping weight on this lead leg, very important. Keeping weight here, we're going to slowly start to bring our center of gravity down. I'm loading into this leg. So I'm really trying to inhibit the amount of weight that's on that back foot. Now keeping this knee fixed, I'm gonna slowly start to stand myself up. Again, you can see that my knee is staying where it is. And I'm just gonna take my hips to about that position. This will be end range. The knee will stay in a soft bend because that way we're keeping the musculature around the knee, the foot, the ankle, and the hip under tension. We're not breaking from that, which might be what your tendency is. So we're gonna keep that, and we're just gonna work for reps here. As you can see, my hip is coming back just a little bit. Again, my center of gravity is forward, or my center of mass is forward. I keep it there. As I go through that press, I'm slowly standing myself up. There's my end range. I keep the tension, woo! And I'm right back down into it. Again, super important, be mindful that you don't start drifting back this way to avoid the tension here. Really try to keep weight on this lead leg and just work relative to your range. If you feel like the knee or something doesn't like all that tension at this deep range, just go to where you feel like it's comfortable and you're gonna work within your limits there. The single leg swing. So we're just working on your shin angle lunge, which should give you an idea as to what good feedback and tension actually feels like from a single leg perspective. Now let's start to challenge that and work with it in a little bit more of a dynamic setting. So you can use a dumbbell, you can use a kettlebell, anything that is going to allow you to swing some weight, create some momentum, and hopefully offer you a chance to work on your stability in a more dynamic way. So grab the tool of your choice. I would not recommend going super heavy. I would suggest probably starting anywhere at about 10 to 15 pounds, and then you can progress from there. So what we're gonna work on is coming back to a very similar position to what we were just working on, and hopefully you feel this sense of grounding in there a little bit more strongly. So I'm really kind of rooted into the foot, and I'm trying to feel or bridge that connection between my foot and my pelvis. And I feel some interplay there. What we're gonna do is you're gonna take the tool of your choice and you're gonna start to go through a swing. And all we're doing to start with is just keeping weight on this lead leg. Now, as we kind of continue to work through the momentum, I'm gonna allow my hips to sit back as the dumbbell goes back. So I'm gonna be sitting into my hip and I'm back up. Now I want you to notice that my knee is staying more or less in the same position. I'm not hyperextending as I'm standing up. We're not doing this. We're gonna keep that knee in a bend because again, that is going to force tension to be established around the knee, around the ankle, around the hip. And now, when we actually go to do stuff dynamically, our body kind of understands how we can actually use these tensions around rhythm in a more dynamic setting. And ultimately, this is going to be what applies to our day-to-day life. So grab the tool of your choice, be mindful that the knee is staying where it is, and you're trying to capture that feedback through all these different sections, and you're trying to use that to work yourself through that motion. So as you can see, when it comes to joint hypermobility, not only do we want to focus on strengthening kind of these different muscle groups around our joints, but also kind of this network of feedback throughout. And having the ability to maintain and sustain tension as we go through ranges of motion. It's not just how big of a range of motion can I cover or how much weight can I pull, but what is the quality of my ability to utilize tension, maintain tension, and use that as a guide to take me through movement. And I believe ultimately, if you can do that well, your movement will inherently improve. So I hope you learned a few different concepts, like I said, that maybe broadly apply to some stuff that you're already doing. Take this, utilize it, play with it, kind of find what works for you. And if you're into this type of content, feel free to throw a like, subscribe if you want to come back for more. And for those of you who do follow me, I'll catch you guys in the next one.